Welcome to the Foundry, where leaders are forged daily. I'm your host, George Roberts. Welcome back, entrepreneurs. Today we welcome Stewart Beal, founder of Beal Properties and Beal Capital. Welcome, Stewart.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So I understand, Stewart, you have a very long history as an entrepreneur. Take us right out from the start. What was your first venture?
Yeah, okay, great. So when I was 13, I started mowing lawns for my neighbors and basically just went door to door with a little flyer that I made and took on little lawn mowing jobs, landscaping jobs. And when I was 16, I got a driver's license and bought a truck, or my parents, of course, assisted me buying a truck when I was 16. And I had a little trailer, and we expanded the business outside of the immediate walking distance customers that I had. And when I was 19, I had 400 customers and sold the business for $250,000. The deal I got struck with the buyer is it was $50,000 down plus $1,482 a month for 10 years. And because I had that $1,482 coming in a month for 10 years, I was able to just focus on entrepreneurial ventures. I never had to go get a job. And that's where I started my career. And then when I was 19, I took that $50,000 that I had received from selling the landscaping business, and I bought a 5-unit rental house in downtown Ypsilanti, and that's kind of how I got started.
Right. And I believe that's, again, obviously a very young start to your real estate career at 19. That corresponds to a major downturn in the Ypsi market.
Yeah. So in 2002, when I made my first investment, Ypsilanti real estate was the most expensive it's ever been, except for this year. And so the first deal I did was very tight, and some of my mentors that I was talking to about the deal said it was too tight. But I wanted to do my first deal, and I'd analyzed about 20 different opportunities, and this was the best one. So I jumped in, even though they said it might be a little, and I'm glad I did, because 19 years later, I still own that property. It's worth a lot more than I paid for it. And it's cash flowed the entire time. And I've done 4 cash out refinances on the property, and I'm going to be doing a 5th cash out refinance here shortly.
And I believe that's a commonality for your approach. You're somebody who likes to buy and hold if possible, rather than wanting to get in and out quickly.
Yeah. So the buy and hold strategy is the strategy, in my opinion, because even if you mismanage the property, even if you go 2 times your construction costs, even if you make little mistakes, even if the property is managed badly for a stretch of a couple of months, you can recover through hard work and some intelligent maneuvers, and make that property long-term successful, even though you made some mistakes in the beginning. And there's never been a real estate acquisition without going a little over budget here, or missing the fact that you're going to have to replace this there, or more tenants moving out than anticipated. I mean, things happen. And so I'm not attracted to flipping or selling quickly, because I think the main way to do this is long-term hold. And of course, these things don't run on autopilot. You have to work on them every day. We manage 300 properties at Beal Properties, and so we have a team that works on them every day. So it's a lot of hard work.
I think that also fits in with the market, right? Here in the Midwest, Ypsilanti, Michigan, maybe not growing as quickly as some of the sexier markets, so to speak, in the Sun Belts. I think that buy and hold strategy makes a whole lot more sense. Now, what about investors? Do you ever have any difficulty finding the sort of investors who are looking for that longer term, heavier on the cash flow?
Yeah, so the nice thing that we offer our investors at Beal Capital is while they are investing in an illiquid real estate investment, they cannot wake up in the morning and sell their shares of this investment like they could if they were investing in Ford Motor Company. We do have 3 different ways that we can return investors' capital in a relatively short period of time. So let's say you invested $100,000 in my real estate syndication today, and then 60 days from now, you had a life event. Let's say a family member died and you had to go take over their business, and the business was kind of cash strapped and you were trying to figure out how to make payroll, and you could really use that 100,000 that you invested in my real estate syndication. Some real estate syndicators would say, sorry, I'm not doing anything about that. You know, you made a long-term investment. What we do is we help the person sell their shares to other investors. So basically we would market their shares to other investors, and we've done that 7 times over the last 5 years, and it's been successful all 7 times. And so you are investing in illiquid real estate, but you can get your capital back if you need to. The first strategy is selling it to the other investors. The second strategy is the fund can buy shares to settle the amount of outstanding shares. And then the third way is we can do cash out refinances. And instead of returning the money to all of the investors, return your money. And then, of course, the investors at that point own more of the syndication than they otherwise would have. And so that's the strategy we use. And then, of course, if those strategies don't work, there's a fourth one, which of course we can sell the property. And so that sometimes takes a little longer. Especially if you're asking for a high price, but we've had success doing all 4 of those.
That's exciting and very nice. As you mentioned, that is not something that most sponsors are willing to do, or at least don't like to do. With such a long-term buy and hold strategy, I'm wondering about your financing. Are you availing yourself of FHA loans for these properties?
So we borrow money from a couple different sources. The main one we do is just local banks. So just search for your local banks in your area, and we ask for 5-year term, 25-year amortization loans. And then, of course, you can put loans in your personal name if they're 4 units and lower. That doesn't work well for investors if you're taking on investors, though. But I've done that many times. And then the third way is your Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae loans, and those are 10-year terms, and you can't refinance them because of the prepayment penalties. But the good thing is there's no personal guarantee, and I've done many of all of those different type of loans. And the other piece is a land contract. I like land contracts. Obviously, in this hot market, it'd be more difficult to convince a seller to do a land contract with you, but I've been doing this for a long time, and there's been many times where I see a property that has been listed for sale for a long time, and I approach the owner and I say, I'll pay your price that you want, which is obviously a higher price than anyone else would because you haven't sold the property, but you need to lend me the money to buy it from you. And I've done that more than 20 times.
So as we see, you're coming up on 2 decades of experience in the business, and that's probably one of the ways you're able to take some of these deals with hair, as they're called. So in addition to off-market deals, I understand there's some deals that maybe don't look as attractive to other buyers. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I just signed purchase agreements to buy 2 properties like that. They're both in Toledo. One's a 5-unit property, and the entire exterior has paint that's just flaking away off the entire building. It looks really bad right now. The inside is really great though, and we're going to buy this property, and on the first day we're going to have to invest $30,000 to scrape and paint that entire house. The thing is, I went out and got quotes, and it's not 30, it's like 50, but I employ 62 tradespeople, and so we're going to do this project in-house. And by doing that, we're going to be able to save a significant amount of money. So not only are we taking on a major project on day one, which a lot of people wouldn't do, we're going to be able to get it done for less than you would if you went out and hired a contract. Second deal with hair on it that I have just signed a purchase agreement in is it's a 7-unit. It's also in Toledo, Ohio. The apartments are huge 3-bedroom apartments, and the seller is renting them for, and I kid you not, $295, $395, and $450 a month. And so these are apartments that should rent for $1,000 a month, and they're renting for, $390 and $400. And so a lot of people looked at that and said, I'm not buying that building. Are you crazy? The tenants are paying half of what they should. And so we're able to buy it, convince them to pay what they should, give them a discount a little bit, of course, reward them for their longevity. But if they choose not to come up, then they would move out. We would fix up the unit and then we'd rent it at market rent. And so a lot of folks who just crunch the numbers would say this deal doesn't work at all because of what the seller is renting them for. But I don't care what the seller is renting them for. That's not what we're going to rent them for. So, of course, the project will lose money for the first couple of months of ownership. What I tell investors is we're looking for a 10% cash on cash return soon. And emphasis is on soon because we're buying properties that need several things resolved before they're going to cash flow long term. And so we're not afraid of those type of projects. I will say we do not take on huge renovation projects. I mean, we want to be able to get in and out of these things that we're doing. So people approach me and say, I've got an abandoned building. It could be 30 units, take 18 months to get there. We don't take those projects on.
Great. And something that you love, as I understand, is this real estate end of things, as opposed to, I see you also in construction, it's on your shirt, and something also that your family has been doing. The Beal name is really huge out there in Ypsilanti. So I imagine that you really enjoy this negotiation end of things.
Yeah, I like real estate more than I like construction, because in construction, you're always out of work and you are always hiring or laying off people because you always have too much work or you have too few work. It's just always like this mad scramble. And I like real estate better because in real estate, if I never bought a property ever again, the 62 employees that work for me today would be employed forever because we have enough work for them forever based on what we already manage. And so it's just more of a laid back HR business model where in construction, I had 180 employees. And when you had 180 employees in construction doing work in 7 states, you've got 30 guys laid off one week, and then you need 30 more on top of the 30 for the next week because that's what the project requires. And I just didn't enjoy that as much. And then, of course, construction. What are you doing in construction? Well, in construction, your job is making other people's dreams come true. That's what your job is. And I want to make my dreams come true. And that's what I find is better in real estate is you control your own destiny. And in real estate, you make money multiple different ways. And in construction, you only make money one way. So that's the way I like to do it.
And I see that you got over 3,200 doors under management, Beal Properties. Those are all your acquisitions. So again, the company is essentially, I guess you could say, captive to Beal Capital. Is that right? You're not managing for other people, or are you?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do manage for other people. We charge 8 to 10% of the rent, depending on where the property is located. So today we signed up a 7-unit in Lansing, Michigan. Yesterday we signed up a 4-unit in Mount Clemens, Michigan. We signed up a 4-unit in Ypsilanti earlier this week. So we sign up 1 or 2 clients a week. to manage their property. And we just do it in our target area, which is a 1 hour, maybe 1 hour, 20-minute drive around Ypsilanti, Michigan, where I live and where our office is. But our main focus is acquiring properties for ourselves and our investors. And to be honest, quite a few of our clients are also our investors. I mean, they want to invest, so they find a property, then they hire us, and then they can't find another property, and they're on our email list. So I email them, hey, I got into contract on this property, and then they come in as an investor on that property. So it's, I kind of view the clients and the investors as the same group of folks. If they buy a property, I'll manage it for them. If they can't find a property and have excess capital, well, maybe they'll invest with us on our next deal. So it's a good group that we've put together.
Exciting. And also understand you got quite a group of property management cars that you use to go over that 1.5 to 2 hour radius.
Yeah, we have a couple of people that drive full time. Those are our leasing agents. We have a leasing agent in the state of Michigan, and we have a leasing agent in the city of Toledo, where we manage over 1,500 units, and they drive all day, literally all day. So sometimes the person will have 20 different appointments at 20 different locations. They're close by most of the time, and they just go from one location to the next. And so we have 9 Chevy Sparks that our leasing agents and property managers drive. And then we have vans and trucks and all that for the maintenance staff. We have about 21, 22 vehicles. And I know some people try to do real estate without vehicles, but you know, I've just always done it with vehicles, and it works well for us.
And another aspect, I think, of your approach that's a little different. You are also, I believe, a real estate agent.
Yeah, so I'm a real estate broker in the state of Michigan, and that allows me to earn commissions buying and selling properties. And so that's one of the ways I make money when working with investors, is I charge commissions to buy and sell real estate. But I don't buy and sell real estate for any other people. So if you called me and said, hey, Stewart, can you help me find an apartment building in Ypsilanti, Michigan? I'd like to buy it. I would tell you, I can't do that because I'm going to try to buy that building myself, and I can't represent you well in my target area if I'm also trying to buy the same properties that you are. I mean, it's a conflict of interest. So what I tell people that ask me to help them buy properties is I recommend other real estate agents and brokers that they should work with. And then I tell them, but if you do buy the property, you can hire us to manage it, because at that point we have less of a conflict of interest. And we have parameters around those conflicts.
Right. So I know a lot of people advise you not to get that agent's license or broker's license. In your case, you need it because you're running the property management. Is that right? I think you need a broker's license for that, or no?
Yeah, absolutely correct. In both the state of Michigan and the state of Ohio, you cannot engage in property management activities on properties you do not own without a broker's license. So you can buy a property and manage it without a broker's license, but as soon as you manage property for other people, you need a broker's license. I have a broker's license in the state of Michigan. I'm in the process of getting a broker's license in the state of Ohio. So we're only signing up new clients in Michigan right now because we do not have a broker's license in Ohio. We manage so many apartments in Toledo because they're part of my real estate syndications. I own them, and so therefore I can manage them.
Yeah, and I see that although you do have a whole lot of doors, not only just under management, but also that you own, but you're still looking at a lot of these smaller properties. And how does that work for you? Are you able to bring investors in these deals? Or are you actually rolling multiple small numbers of units into a deal and then rolling that out as a syndication?
Yeah, so we do 2 things. The first thing is we do a real estate syndication. You need to be an accredited investor and have a net worth of over $1 million, excluding your personal residence, to invest in the real estate syndication. We do it as a blind pool. So I tell investors that we're going to invest in multifamily real estate within a 1 hour driving distance of Ypsilanti, and they invest their money, trusting us to place that money into something that works. And we go out and buy small to mid-size apartment complexes this year because we're doing a small fund this year. And then the second thing we do is we buy small properties and form what we call one asset entity LLCs. So this week we signed a purchase agreement to buy a 5-unit at 408 West Bancroft in Toledo, Ohio, and the purchase price is $200,000. And my friend who's always been saying, "Hey, Stewart, I want to make a real estate investment with you." He is investing half the capital required to do that real estate investment. I'll charge a small commission, so it's worth my time, and then I'll invest half the money required to do it. And I've done that about 30 times where we have these small LLCs, and we take the investor in as a partner in those small LLCs so that they do not have to be accredited because they're a true partner and they have rights in the operating agreement. But we manage the property and manage the real estate, so it's still a pretty passive investment for them.
That's awesome. So maybe moving on to a different section of the interview. As an entrepreneur, what is your greatest influence?
Well, I started reading business magazines when I was really young. I come from an entrepreneurial background. My mom is an attorney and my father is a contractor, and I read every business book I could get my hands on in my teens. And I think that is what influenced me to become an entrepreneur. And then I influence other people. You know, I'm constantly counseling people and talking to people about entrepreneur activities in real estate. I'll give pretty much everyone an hour of my time. I set up calls with people, and we do calls and just talk about business and real estate. It's what I like to do. It's kind of my hobby. And what I tell people is you need to provide value in everything you do. And that's what I preach, is provide value. So let's say you meet someone who, you know, doesn't really have much going on today. And you spend an hour with them, counseling them and advising them. And then, you know, 4 years later, you got an ad out for, let's say you're trying to hire an accountant, and oh, wait a second, here's this guy you talked to 4 years ago. He's now a CPA. He's now wants to come work for you, or he knows someone who does. And just, you know, things come full circle if you provide value to people, you know, and do things the right way. So that's what I try to do.
That's great. I know another thing you're doing, I think you have some sort of on-site or face-to-face meetups. You had a breakfast a couple weeks back. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Over the last 7 years, I've probably done maybe 15 investor events. I did 3 in Texas. I did 1 in Atlanta, did 1 in Miami, did 2 or 3 in New York, done a half dozen in the Detroit metro area. And so what that does is it just brings a lot of positivity to our brand and positivity to our business. So again, like maybe some guy came to the breakfast who doesn't have much money, but he's going to be telling everyone for years, oh man, like I came to this investor breakfast that influenced me, like Beal, you know, oh, you need management, Beal, if you need construction, Beal. You know, oh, you have some excess capital you want to invest, go talk to Stewart Beal. So that kind of just has a lot of positive spin-offs. But then also, like in that room, there were some serious high net worth individuals who have, even just in the past 2 weeks, invested or committed to invest in our business. So it kind of does both. And then, like this coming Saturday, August 21st, I got to go to Toledo to check out a bunch of multifamily properties that we already own. I want to put eyes on them. I haven't seen them in a bit. And I just thought, well, why don't I just invite 20 people to come with me, and we'll do a real estate investment tour right out on the sites, show them the apartments, show them the grounds, you know, check it all out together. And I'll just tell them, like, look, yeah, this is great. And then we'll go to the next property and they'll say, okay, this isn't so great. Here's 10 things I need my team to get resolved. and we'll just go through it together, kind of management together type thing. So if anybody wants to come on that tour, it's in Toledo on August 21st. Shoot me a Facebook message or send me an email, sbeal@gobeal.com. You can come on the tour, and I'll tell you, what I'm looking at as I travel around to these properties.
That's an exciting way to give back. And one other question I have for you before we go into the final phase of the interview is maybe you could tell us about a couple of your favorite acquisitions. I always like to hear the story of how people, get into their properties.
Yeah. So I have purchased about 300 properties, and I've done about 500 real estate transactions in total, including purchasing and selling. So I've got a number of pretty good stories, but one of them is I was touring a 40-unit apartment complex in Toledo, and I was meeting with a guy who's been managing it for 30, 40 years. And we entered into a contract to buy it as a 40 unit, 40 times, I think it was 20,000 a unit. So we were buying this thing for $800,000 as a 40 unit. And it's time for the construction, inspection. And so I'm going through as an inspector, and I say, he says, meet me at my office. So we go in the office, and I realized that his office is a huge apartment. And I said, is this a 40 unit or is this a 41 unit apartment complex? And he said, well, if you consider the office an apartment, it's a 41 unit. And I said, okay, that's good. I'm like getting a free apartment. And then we go through a door across the hall, and it's this space is totally filled with fridges and stoves. But then I realized we're in an apartment. And I said, what is this? He said, this is my storage area. And I said, is this a 42 unit or a 40 unit? And he said, well, I guess, yeah, I guess if you cleared out these appliances I've had in here for 20 years, this could be a 42nd unit. And so then we go into the next space, and the exact same thing happened. There was just trim and stuff lying all over the floor of this apartment. He hadn't rented it in 10, 20 years. He hadn't even thought of it as an apartment. And it turned out that we were buying a 45 unit apartment building for the price of 40 units because the seller was using all these spaces as storage spaces, and he had one as his employee break room and stuff like that. So that's a good story I have. And then the best story I probably have is in the foreclosure crisis, we ran out of stuff to buy in Ypsilanti, Michigan, and we were searching on Craigslist for properties nearby. And there was a 63 unit apartment complex in Toledo that was for sale for $600,000. And 63 units for $600,000. That's under 10,000 a unit. So that was pretty attractive. And we entered into negotiations to buy it for $600,000 when he said that he was losing it to his lender. And so I approached the lender and I asked the lender, could I take over the debt? So I didn't have to put any cash down. And the lender said, yes, only if you put $250,000 in a repair and loan payment escrow. I didn't have that money at the time, so I told them no. And then, so the deal fell apart. And a couple months later, I was driving around Lansing, Michigan, which is about 2 hours from Toledo. And I got a call from the banker saying, I own that property now. We foreclosed on the seller. We really screwed up. We forgot to pay the water bill. The water's been shut off. All the residents are in the bank headquarters because it's within walking distance of the property. And they're causing a stink about the water being turned off. If you pay the water bill, I'll give you the property. And so I said, what? And I said, okay, let me call the water department. So I called the water department, and the water department said that I could get the water turned back on for $4,200. So I drove from Lansing to Ypsilanti, picked up a check for $4,200, drove to Toledo, paid the water department, drove to the bank, and the banker literally gave me a apartment complex, a 63 unit apartment complex for $0 after I paid the past due water bill. So that's my favorite real estate story.
Those are amazing stories. Well, with that, I would give you the opportunity if you wanted to turn around and ask me any questions.
So tell me about the Foundery and what you guys do and what you mean when you say leaders are forged daily.
So I look at entrepreneurship as one of the greatest proving grounds for leadership. Many people get into leadership in their companies, in corporate world before they go out. Other people, I think, really find their space in entrepreneurship. I look at it as a very special type of leadership because it's not just about decision making. It's also a very high risk appetite that's required. And in that respect, rather different from corporate leadership. So I love to get the whole story from people. I mean, I could have just done a podcast from people who syndicate apartment buildings or who have funds as you do, but I thought it would be much more interesting to get the full entrepreneurial story to figure out why people got in and what keeps them going. It's obviously a very difficult space to go into. So if you're not loving it, there's no way that you survive here.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I've never worked in a corporate environment, although our business is becoming more corporate every day as we grow. But I've never worked in a corporate environment. I have no idea if I would be good at being a middle manager or a manager at a large corporation. Entrepreneurship is totally different. I mean, a lot of people working in large corporations have no exposure to the success or the failure of the business. They don't know if the business has any money or not. They don't have to be worried about making payroll. So it's actually a great position for some people to be in, if that's the type of thing that you want to do. But as an entrepreneur, dozens of times in my career, I have had to scramble to make payroll and overstretched and laid people off and hired people. And it's just a different type of deal. But, it's successful for me just because I'm the type of person who actually enjoys, living on the edge a little bit, buying that next building, even though it's a stretch, even though it's a financial risk, still taking it on, so that's what I do.
That's great. I see that we're two people who just love and enjoy that rough and tumble of business. And I want to thank you for coming on my show today, Stewart. I think that our listeners are going to learn a lot from your experience. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you very much.